Hello, students. Please get your math notebooks ready. Let me help you with this assignment. Every time you start a math assignment, you need a title in your notes. This is Unit 7, Lesson 3, and in Google Classroom, it says 8.7.3 Student-Facing Tasks. If you don't have it on paper, then don't worry. You need to write notes though. Get your math notebook. Title your math notebook. Look at the first problem. This is the first problem, so I'm just going to call it problem 1. Okay, for problem 1, what is the volume of a giant cube that measures 10,000 kilometers on each side? Okay, I'm going to draw a picture and I want you to do the same thing. In your notes, draw a cube. It doesn't matter if it's giant or not because we can scale it up or down and we're going to write the dimensions. Okay, so here's my cube and they told us the dimensions are 10,000 kilometers on each side because it's a cube. So you know each side is the same and the units are kilometers. What is the volume of the cube? So you've got to remember how to find the volume of a cube. It's length times width times height. But for a cube, the length, width, and height are all equal measurements. So the volume of a cube is going to equal the length of one of the sides times the length of one of the sides times the length of one of the sides. That's the length cubed. And for this cube, the volume equals 10,000 kilometers, that's the length, and then cube it. So 10,000 times 10,000 times 10,000. If you're not good at multiplying 10,000s, you can use a calculator, or you might remember that when you multiply tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, you can add the 0. So start with 10,000, and then we're going to multiply that by another 10,000. So that's adding on 4 more zeros. So 10,000 times 10,000 is add on 4 more zeros. And then multiply by another 10,000, add on 4 more zeros. If I did this correctly, there's a total of 12 zeros. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is 10,000 times 10,000 times 10,000. But I don't want to write it out with all these zeros. I want to simplify that. That is 10 to the power of 12. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. It's repeated multiplication. We multiply 10 12 times. I like writing it with an exponent, but when you look at your assignment, they do not want an exponent. They say, type your answer below as a number. Oh man, we've got to write out all these zeros. So go ahead and start entering them in. That's 12 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And submit your answer. For the next problem, in your notes, draw a line because we're going on to the next problem. And it says, complete the table. Complete the table to explore patterns in the exponents when, just a second, let me read this a little carefully. I want to make it fit. There we go. When raising power of 10 to a power. Power of 10 to a power. You may skip a single box in the table, but if you do, be prepared to explain why you skipped it. Hold on. Before we do this, we're going to need a review of powers of 10. So in your notes, go ahead and write that down. Review powers of 10. Okay, so 10 to the first power, that equals 10. 10 to the second power is, and you remember, right? 10 times 10? Because 10 squared is equal to 10 times 10, and that is 100. 10 to the third power is 10 times 10 times 10. That equals 1,000. And we start to notice this pattern that the exponent is equal to how many zeros there will be when we're dealing with powers of 10, not other bases, but for tens. So if I have 10 to the fifth power, 10 times blah, 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 you get it. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. That is 100,000 because I have 5 additional zeros. Here's another way to look at it. Let's do 10 to the sixth power. Okay, 10 to the sixth power, I do it this way. If I need to prove it to myself, if I got confused and I need to remember, start with 10 to the first power, which is 10. Start with 10 to the first power, that's 10. And then times 10, now that's 10 to the second power. Times 10, that's 10 to the third power. Times 10, that's 10 to the fourth power. Times 10 is 10 to the fifth power. And again, times 10 is 10 to the sixth power. 1 million. Got it? I want to make really sure that you've got this locked up in your head because of the pandemic and all. So let me write this out again. I have another way to organize it. 10 is 10 to the first power. Okay? Now if I add on a 0, that is 10 to the second power. And if I add on a 0, that is 10 to the third power. And when I say add on a 0, what I mean is multiply by 10 again. So if I again multiply by 10, then that becomes 10 to the fourth power. If I again multiply by 10, that is 10 to the fifth power. If I again multiply by 10, okay, now you got it, right? That's 10 to the sixth power. So go ahead and draw this out in your notes to help you remember powers of 10. These are powers of 10. 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million. Now let's do the table that is in our assignment. The problem says to fill out the table. And I want you to do it on paper, but you also have to do it in the computer. So how are you going to manage this? Go ahead and do this out on paper first. The title or the heading on the table, the left column says expression. The middle column says expanded. And the far right column says single power of 10, which means simplified, just simplify those exponents. Single power of 10. Okay, have you got that table going in your notes? The first expression they give you is 10 cubed squared. 10 to the power of 3 to the power of 2. And they already wrote it out for you in expanded form. Go ahead and do it yourself. That's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And it's good to write these out in expanded form when you're learning exponents, because later you're going to have this locked into your memory so well, you don't have to write it out anymore. Now, as a single power of 10, how many times are we multiplying 10? Remember, exponents are repeated multiplication. So count how many times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I simplify then, it's 10 to the sixth power. Okay, the next row in this table says 10 squared to the fifth power. Let's write that out in expanded form. 10 times 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 10. Ah, exhausting. Okay, now to simplify this, you need to know how many times did you multiply by 10? Because the exponent represents repeated multiplication. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10 to the power of 10. Can you see a pattern now? Now that you've written this out by hand, you're going to see the pattern that you're going to know forever, and you'll never have to write this out again. Notice that 10 to the third power twice to the power of 2, that is 10 to the sixth power, because 10 to the third 2 times. So 2 times 3 is 6. Look again at the next one. 10 to the second power 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 times 2. So we get 10 to the 10th power. In other words, when you have power to the power, multiply your exponents to simplify them. Let me show you another. 10 to the fourth power squared. So that's 10 times 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 10. How many, or how do you simplify these exponents? Well, that's 10 to the fourth power twice. So multiply these exponents. 10 to the fourth power twice. That gives you 10 to the eighth power. Let's do the last row now. 10 to the eighth power to the 11th power. Oh, forget it. I'm not writing this out. That is too long for me, and I'm lazy. But I will simplify and write it as a single power of 10. That'll be 10 to the, let me think, 10 to the 8th to the 11th would be 11 of those 8s. So that's 8 times 11, that's 88. 10 to the 88th power. Now you have it in your notes, but you still have to do it for the assignment because that's what I'm grading. I'm not going to pop out of your screen and check your notes. So let me get my keyboard here and go to my computer. Read directions carefully. It says, create and fill in the table using the table button. And it has that picture of the table button, but that's not it. That's just a picture. So what you need to do is find that icon on your screen. Let me move myself over. There we go. Right in these 3 buttons, go to the 3 buttons and find the table button. Dun, 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 dun. You're going to need a 3 by 5 table. So select 3 by 5. Make sure you write the heading on your table. Expression, expanded form. Oops. And finally, the simplified form, which is a single power of 10. Okay, this is going to be exhausting, but let me show you a few tricks. So the first expression is 10 to the third power, and you know how to use the caret button, but there's another way with this screen. Go to the x squared button. Click that to get superscript. Do you see how the font goes up small up in the top corner? That's called superscript. So when you click this x squared button, it turns on and off superscript font, and that's going to help you type your entries in neatly in the table. Okay, for expanded form, that is 10. And then for multiplication, you can just use the star. Because in computer language, that star, which is Shift 8 on your keyboard, that means multiplication. So now I have 10 to the third power times 10 to the third power. And as a single power of 10, that's 10 to the sixth power. So filling out this table is not as hard as you thought. Go ahead and do it now. Oh, I have an idea. I'm going to copy and paste. Watch this. There we go. And then paste, 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 paste. Cool. And now write it as the single power of 10, and that is 10 to the 10th. Next one is 10 to the 4th. Oops. 10 to the 4th power squared. So that's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Put on my parentheses, and then I'm going to copy and paste because I'm super lazy. There we go. And then as a single power of 10, it is 10 to the 8th power. One thing I don't like about this program is this toolbar stays there. It just does not disappear. Okay, next, 10 to the 8th power. 10 to the 8th power to the 11th power. And remember, we're not going to write that out because it is too long. But do show the simplified form, which is 10 to the 88th power. And submit your table. It looks like they've just repeated the question. Again, it says, complete the table to explore patterns, and it gives you the same table. But they're not repeating the question. The new question is down here. You have to read everything carefully to find out what you're supposed to answer in this program. It asks you, if you choose to skip one entry in the table, which entry did you skip and why? So go down here. You know what? I need to get rid of that bar right there. I think I have to click something again. I don't know what to do. That's okay. So I skipped writing the expanded form of 10 to the 8th power. Let me superscript that. Hold on. 10 superscript 8. To the 11th. Because it is too long and I'm very lazy. I do my work completely, but I don't want extra work. And submit your answer. I really need to turn off these dumb bars. Oh, there, click the eye. Oh no, that's not it. Next problem. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna keep having these bars all over my screen. It looks like they're repeating the problem again. They show you the same table and it says, use the patterns you found in the table. Okay, so here's the new question. Use the patterns you found in the table to write 10 to the m to the n as an equivalent expression with a single exponent of 10. Okay, this is something you need in your notes. So go back to your notes. I'll get mine here. we want to write 10 to the m to the nth as a single expression. Well, remember that when we look at it in the table, we saw that the exponents multiply. When you have power to the power, then these exponents multiply when you simplify. So that's 10 to the m times n. And this finding is an important result. This is the name of the power to the power rule. Power to the power. Please write this in your notes. This is an important rule that now we've proved it with this table and you need to memorize it. Power to the power rule. I'm going to write it another way. A equals some number. It's the base. A to the exponent m raised to the next power of n. The answer is A times m times n. Don't forget this very important exponent rule. I call it power to the power, but you know what? I was taking notes on exponents, and another math teacher or another source I saw called it product of a power, the product of a power rule. But I like to call it power to the power, whatever. Okay, so let's type that in. We're not writing the rule here. They're just asking us to write a expression. So that's going to be 10, and it says to use the caret, 10 to the m times n. It simplifies to 10 to the m times n, right? Okay, let me submit my answer. Oh no, it says 10 to the m times n is not correct. What? I'm sure it's correct. We definitely checked that. Any ideas? This computer program is difficult. Let's try entering it with parentheses. So go back to your answer and put the m times n in parentheses and submit it again. Ding! Okay, let me help you. Before you submit yours, put it in parentheses and go to the next problem. The next problem says, hold on, I want to move it over on my screen. If you took the amount of oil consumed in 2 months in 2013 worldwide, you could make a cube of oil that measures 10 to the third meters on each side. How many cubic meters of oil is this? Okay, go back to your notes. You're going to want this one in your notes. There's a few things you need to know in order to solve this problem. First of all, you need to know that a cubic meter is a measure of volume, in case you forgot. So get your notes. Let's go to the next problem. And you need to know that a cubic meter, let's go ahead and write this down. Cubic meter, which is m cubed, that's the unit abbreviation, is a measure of volume. Now we can do the problem. It says you could make a cube of oil. So I'm going to draw my cube. Maybe you're going to get really good at this and then you don't need to draw cubes anymore, but I think it's helpful to see that. You could make a cube of oil that measures 10 to the third power on each side. And that's in meters, 10 to the third meters. So they did not give you cubic meters. They gave you the linear measurement in meters, and they're asking you how many cubic meters would that be. So the volume of the cube is going to be equal to 10 to the third meters cubed, because that's length times length times length. So what is 10 to the third meters cubed? I'm going to write this out. That's 10 to the third meters times 10 to the third meters times 10 to the third meters. Please write this in your notes too. Now you see that the volume equals 10 to the third times 10 to the third times 10 to the third. That's 10 to the ninth. But what about the meters? Do I just write meters? No, now it's cubic meters. Let me show you. Meters times meters times meters, that is cubic meters. When you look at the units this way, it's called dimensional analysis, where you keep the units all throughout your calculation. So if I have meters times meters times meters, that gives me meters cubed, and I know I have an answer for volume because it even shows me the units are correct. So the volume of oil equals 10 to the ninth cubic meters. However, you need to read the program to figure out how to enter your answer. And it says, use the caret symbol to represent an exponent. Okay, so let's type it in. 10, the caret symbol is Shift 6 on your keyboard, 10 to the ninth. It did not say anything about how to enter the units, but it does say numeric expression. A numeric expression won't have any letters. And submit your answer. Ding! Now they're going to ask you another question about the same thing. They have the same given information. And the question is, do you think this would be enough to fill a pond, a lake, or an ocean? So if you had a volume of 10 to the ninth meters cubed of oil, would that be enough to fill a pond, a lake, or an ocean? Heck, I don't know. I guess I should research a little, like what's the typical volume of a lake? But I'm just going to try to picture it in my mind. And I guess that's more than a pond, but definitely not an ocean. We don't use that much oil, do we? I think it's a lake. You can guess whatever you want. I don't know the correct answer. I didn't look it up. And go to it's going to say next problem for me, but I'm going to stop it here. I'm tired. So, or should you do this one? You know what? I'm going to let you read this carefully on your own. I'm not going to help you with this one. Ha! Read the problem carefully and then click who you agree with, Andre, Elena, or neither of them. And then submit your answer. And in the next problem, explain why. And then you'll be finished. So you have to read this one, think about it on your own, and explain your answer to get points. You can't just copy me. See you later, guys. Bye.